My next guest says investors need to know what they're getting into, but more regulation probably is not the answer. Henley Smith, he is the Chief Investment Officer at Commonwealth Asset Management. Henley was formerly the Chief Investment Officer at Gabelli Fixed Income. Good to have you with us, Henley. Thanks so much for joining us. So what do you make of that? I mean, when I spoke with Jim Grant about this money market mutual funds and we started to do some of the numbers, I was surprised to learn that some of the biggest funds where people park their cash, they write checks against it, in some cases 45% are invested in short-term paper in Europe.
Yeah, I think it's important to look at cash as a foundational investment, and the foundation on which everything is built on. And unfortunately, in the money market space, investing has been by default. So willingly or not, a lot of investors that are looking for some yield at this point are choosing to go into prime funds, and they might be, in fact, getting into investments that they most normally wouldn't do. From a credit standpoint, from a curve standpoint, and more importantly, from a structural standpoint. I think what Jim was talking about, there's some credit there overseas that might be shaky right now, but if you look at the structure of those bonds in commercial paper, there might be some optionality there that might be even scarier.
What does that mean when you say the optionality?
Well, a lot of commercial paper, just to get additional yield to it, might have a call option onto it. So if the market starts to back up or gets volatile again, that call option could come into place or come into play, and again, it could make that particular investment a lot more volatile. So that's something to really concern yourself about.
All right, so once we've concerned ourselves about this and started to get the jitters, what do we do? What are some of the alternatives if you're looking for this safe place to put cash?
Well, I think at Commonwealth, what we prescribe is a separately managed account. That's the best way to get control and transparency over this asset class. But we're taking it one step farther. We're aligning ourselves and creating relationships with firms that, for instance, First Financial in Dallas and Stonecastle Partners here in New York City, who are doing financially insured cash account programs. And I think there's a compelling reason for investors both on the institutional level and the retail level to look at those types of programs that give you insured income, but again, give you the control and transparency that you really need in this investment space.
So when you actually look at your account, does it say cash? What does it actually mean that it's invested in?
Well, that's the real key here. It will say cash, or it'll say XYZ money market fund, and investors really in this particular spot and in this particular junction have to look at the prospectus and see exactly what is in that money market fund.
All right, but no, I got to break in because, be real here. People are not going to thumb through a 47-page prospectus and look at the fine print. We've been there before.
I know.
So what do they do? Should they call their brokerage firm? Should they call their money manager and say, all right, what exactly are you invested in?
Ask questions, absolutely. Ask your broker, ask your manager. And it's most important to understand, is that an investment I would own outright? And if it's in the money market fund, it's probably not a great idea. So those are the types of questions you have to ask right now, especially in this period that's uncertain and we're going through a different type of time right now.
I want to pick up on something. You used the word investment. In other words, ask if what your cash is in is really an investment or is it really cash? Because cash could just be money that's sitting in the bank that's insured.
Yeah, in many cases it could be. So it depends, again, what your risk parameters are, what your liquidity needs are. And if once you understand that, and once you understand, again, cash is foundational in nature, then I think you can answer those questions. And again, cash shouldn't be just a default investment. It should be really something that should be paid attention to.
What about hearings, and regulation? Because at least according to some of the reports and in speaking with Jim Grant about this, a lot of the reason that the funds have looked to places like Europe has to do with regulations that were imposed on money market mutual funds in the first place.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the consequence of what we've been going through right now. And I'm all for those rules because I think they do provide safety and liquidity. But there's been such a yield compression in the short part of the curve right now due to, in part, I think, these regulations. So prime funds are looking for ways to get additional yield, and their economics are under tremendous duress right now.
So always ask those questions.
Always ask the question.